You send him 41,000 emails, 350 voice messages, 744 tweets, 48 Facebook messages.
Today, this is designed for October 2025. Now, the problem of institutionalisation is getting very serious. It genuinely is costing me every day of my life for internal breaking sessions. They've since been arrested for these complaints last year. The problem has just got worse and worse. They have now snagged every single bit of my sex power and every single bit of my ability to breathe, and all day it's internal breaking sessions, committing crime against my power all day. Well, my life in society isn't changing outside of internal breaking sessions and internal stripping away the self or internal mortification of self. This is all day, every day, costing me every day of my life, as it's been like that for years, and the problem's not changing. They've snagged my entire life into an interaction, or snagged my entire life or power over my own life, whereby they can commit crime against my power or relativise rubbish all day from the moment I'm waking up until the moment I'm going to sleep. Not last night, but the night before or the day before. It's now Tuesday, and Sunday I didn't leave the tent whatsoever. Didn't leave the tent at all from Sunday night until Monday afternoon, Monday morning, Monday afternoon. And I had to stop at my mum's last night because, well, the weather. But the weather's been serious. I'm sat in a tent. The brain dead control state's getting worse and worse. They've snagged my entire life. It's lost me the best years of my life to be a victim of crime all day. You can see the process where it's encapsulated. My jaw's completely wired shut. This has all day, every day, destroyed somebody's life to make a human punch bag. They snagged my entire life and my jaw shut. You can see the process where it's encapsulated behind my eyes. And all day, from the moment I'm going to sleep at night or early morning until whenever I wake up, whether it's 6 hours, 5 hours, 4 hours, 7 hours, 10 hours, makes no difference, no matter how long it is. The entire time, it's from just 24 hours a day, constantly, 7 days a week, 300 every day of the year. This is my entire life snagged into committing crime against my power and pulling it out. In other words, like I said, it's internal mortification of self and internal breaking sessions every day for 9 years. It's cost me 9 years of my life, and they'll say, well, a solicitor's told you this, we've told you this, but the fact is they're using a £20 phone snatching or a street robbery that I went not guilty for when I was 21. I'm 33 at the end of this year, literally in a matter of weeks. It's now October, or the end of October, and at Christmas time, or just after Christmas, in December the 29th, I'm 33 years old. So in a matter of weeks, I'm going to be 33 years old, and the incident they're using is from March 2000. They're using an incident from March 2014 and say relative all day, every day. This has been all day, every day. I'm now 33 years old, not 21, and I'm still subject to internal crippling transgressions or internal breaking sessions all day, every day. I'm going to summarise what I'm saying. They've made a human punch bag at my life's expense. They've completely destroyed somebody's life. It's the best years of my life gone. I'm probably going to split this video up into various parts as I obviously speak out about different issues or different parts of what I'm speaking about, but the problem is they're still stripping out my power. It's now October 2025 and they're still stripping out significant parts of my power and internal breaking sessions where my life's snagged now, like what they are in 2015. When this first started happening and it got serious, 2015, this is every day. I've lost every single day in a controlled state to be a human punch bag so they can commit crime against my power and pull it out. They've created an internal punch bag where they relativise transgressions, accusations, bombard me with various defamation and humiliation internally. They essentially commit crime against your power internally and strip it out. It's called mortification of self. They've completely destroyed the best years of my life. Like I've said, I've not been on holiday that entire time. I've not been in a sexual relationship that entire time. I'm completely sexually inexperienced. They've cost me sexual relations with every single woman I've ever met because they've stripped my sex power out. I've made the claim that I'm 100% positive about. They could have potentially cost me sexual relations with 50 women plus because they stripped my sex power out and they're committing crime against my power. They've used me in a controlled state as a human punch bag where they control me into being a victim of crime or having my character defamated to the extent where I've been subject to 50 assaults. So I've said there is no doubts whatsoever that you should be having sex with more women than what you should be assaulted. I've been assaulted well over 50 times easily. I'm just talking about 50 assaults that would be able to put through court, that they would be legally liable for outright. So either way, like I said, after getting arrested in Shepcote Lane, the problem's persistent. They've stripped every single bit of my sex drive out. All my ability to get erections have now been snagged, and they've been relativised in little prick while snagging my sex power or my sex drives. My penis has shrunk by 2/3, so my erect penis size now is 33% roughly the size it was before or a couple of years ago, because they've completely snagged every single bit of my physical ability to get erect and internalised it. So I've lost 2/3 of my penis size on erections. They've also physically snagged my ability to breathe, which is causing catastrophic problems with my breathing. I'm physically being stopped or physically restrained, with the institutional self snagging my physical ability to breathe. Internal braking sessions all day, and I mean, I could not explain to anybody how serious it is. Catastrophic internal braking sessions, committing crime against my power in internal braking sessions all day, every day. From the moment I'm going to sleep at night, so the moment I go to sleep at night, I'm bombarded with internal transgressions and defamation or internal braking sessions until the minute I've woken up most days. They're committing crime against my power or relativising rubbish in mortification of self or internal braking sessions and stripping out my power. In summary, what I'm saying, it's an ongoing institutionalisation process with my entire life encapsulated, whereby they commit crime against your power and strip it out all day, every day. This is not nothing new. This has now been from roughly September time, 2016, until now it is October 2025. So it's been over 9 years. Every single day, no joke, not one day off. Every day that process has been on me, wiring my jaw shut worse and worse and putting more and more pressure on my internal organs. Obviously some days are worse than others, whatever else, but the process has been on every minute or every day for 9 years. With my process brought forward, it's not been pulled out, it's not been stopped, it's not been pulled back out. It's just all day, every day, internal braking sessions, stripping my power out and internalising it with the objective of institutionalising somebody. So in summary, they've created an ongoing institutionalisation case that causes catastrophic degree, and I mean, not joking, catastrophic high-risk torture all day, every day, or most days anyway. So the point is, it's internal braking sessions every day for 9 years. Whether some days are catastrophic or not makes no difference. It's every day from September 2016 until now, October 2025. I've been on that process with my jaw wired shut and the process encapsulated all day, every day. They've cost me the best years of my life. I've not been on holiday in that time, not been in a sexual relationship that time. I've probably had sex once that entire time. So having sex once your entire life, I'm now nearly 33 years old and they're still stopping me having sex with women, and obviously physically restraining me now. They snagged my physical ability to get erect. So I've got to accept now, the point is this, I've got to accept at 32 years old I will never have sex ever again. So just let that sink in. I've got to accept at 32 years old, without any sexual convictions or anything like that, that not only will I not have children, but I'll never even engage in sex again because I'm not physically capable, because they snagged my sex power and my penis is completely dishriveled. They snagged every single bit of my erections all day in internal braking sessions, committing crime against my sex power, and internalised it. And this is 100%. The physical restraining on erections that's been recognisable to me has only happened since being in Shepcote Lane last year. So this is my point. I've complained at Shepcote Lane about information going in the system, having physical involvement in my life. I've complained about this. They've completely branded me a liar, and the problem's still getting worse. Like I said, I've now, whatever they put through the system then has now stopped me having sex altogether. So this is my issue. They're saying I don't get a solicitor for anything. This is critical torture every single day, and I've been in a critical condition every single day for 9 years. They might say, well, there's days where you haven't been in a critical condition, but the fact is, if you've been given a forced suicide in 2016, whether you've been trying to commit suicide that time or whether it's been imminent that entire time makes no difference. The fact is, at some point you have been given a forced suicide from that day. So whether it's now or in 10 years, you've had to live with the fact that you've got a forced suicide and not knowing when it is, whether it's imminent or not imminent. And it's unbeknown to me that I've got any genetics whatsoever that should really be in that state or in that scenario. So, and as well as that, being in a controlled state that entire time, like I've said, being subject to internal braking sessions every day, which I have been, just because some of it's not been catastrophic and some days have not been catastrophic, does not then mean that for 9 years you've not been in a critical condition, because you've got a forced suicide. They've pulled every single bit of my life out into obviously a forced suicide and homosexuality. They stripped all my sex power out. And I've obviously made it clear that I'm straight. I was looking to get married and have children. They've ignored that and carried on committing crime against my power, relativising liar all day. So it needed to be stopped at some point, probably 10-15 years ago, and it's still not happened now. Even despite being in an interview and telling them this, it's still not happened now. The next point, my jaw completely wide shut, physically wide shut, getting worse and worse. You can see the process where it's encapsulated in a dome-like or a shutter dome-like process behind your eyes. So this is how you know the institutional cell's synthetic, because you can see the process where it's encapsulated your power in your jaw's wide shut, and it's obviously having physical implications, because they've recently now snagged my ability to get erections, or had a significant impact on my erection size, where I've got no sexual arousal and very limited recognition of sexual tension. They've stripped it all out and internalised it, so I can't get erect, or have limited erections, 33% erections. So, and as well as that, like I've said, you know, it's obviously real, because they've snagged my ability to get erections while committing crime against my power, relativising little prick, while committing crime against my catastrophic internal braking sessions, committing crime against my power with a magnitude of 1,000 crimes, saying little prick while snagging my ability to get erections. So you obviously, from that, while your jaw's wide shut and it's obviously squashing your internal organs, it's 100% without not possible to be anything else other than a synthetic institutional cell. Just to continue, I've had to stop the video because of how long it went on for. But the problem still persists. They've abolished all my sex drives, all my sexual prowess. They've internalised my penis erection size, and it's been reduced by 2/3. They've committed crime against my power in society, stopping me having sexual relations with various women. I claim to be 50 women, but regardless of whether it's 50 women or not, I've had sexual intercourse once, and I'm 33 next month, maybe twice. So, penetrated sex, I've had sex once my entire life, potentially twice, age 33. And every other time that I've engaged in sexual relations or been part of sexual relations, they've stopped that from happening. They've prevented it. So I'm engaging in sexual relations, and with my sex drives physically in turn, they're stopping me from doing that. So the problem still goes on. They might dispute that, they might say you're a liar, but I'm not really interested what they say or not. The fact is, they've got to start accounting for what it is they're doing. So if they're wanting to call me a liar and run off with my life when I'm not lying, the point is this: there shouldn't be the option there for me to lie. There shouldn't be any option for me to lie or for them to misuse information. The facts of the matter should always be crystal 100%. Like, they might say that's not the way the system works, but if that's not the way the system works, they've got to start regulating it correctly, because whether I lie or not, or whether they misuse information or not, that option should not be there when it's so serious. Does that make sense? The option shouldn't be there for me to misconstrue information or lie, and the option shouldn't be there for officers to apparently be pesky and misuse information or commit crime against people or whatever else, misleading information or whatever. There shouldn't be that option there. It should be 100% what's happened and what's not happened factually. So all I can say from my point of view is I've engaged in penetrative sex once, potentially twice, because I can't remember, and it's been with one woman. So I'm 33 next month, so I've had penetrative sex once, maybe twice, you know what I mean? Every other time it's been stopped. It's been disrupted intercourse or prevented intercourse, where sex has started or sexual intercourse has begun, and it's been stopped because they've snagged my sex drive. So there's only been one once or twice where I've had full sex my entire life, and it's been one woman. So all I can say is, regardless of what I'm saying and what I'm not saying, they've cost me sexual relations with a lot of women, and I'm going to say 50 women, 100%, no doubts. It could be more. And I've based that calculation just off how much sexual experience I've got now. It should be 10 times more than that. So it's well over 50, minimum 50 women. They've cost me my natural power, they've cost me sexual relation. It's obviously might be a mad estimate, you know what I mean? Could be a massive estimate. If not, it's 20. It's 20 women. It's still more than what a detective constable's worth in prison. It's still more than what a police officer's entitled to cost me without further clarification under whatever law it is. So even if it's 20 women, all right, it's 20 women. But the fact is, they've been having an input on my life that's not going into the system. So, like I said, they've stopped me having sex a lot of times. That's all I can say about it. Whether it's using institutionalisation, whether it's killing my power in society or affecting my power in society using institutionalisation, that's not for me to decipher. That's not for me to put through. Problems still persist. In a critical condition all day, relativising rubbish into an institutional self, imitating crime, imitating breaking sessions, imitating high-risk breaking sessions all day, every day. Critical condition still continues. My jaw's completely wide shut, my life's completely wide shut, and the problem still goes on. I don't really know what else to say. They've cost me the best years of my life, and they commit crime against my power all day, stripping out my knowledge that they've done that. So all day I'm subject to internal breaking sessions where they're committing crime against my power and stripping it out. Like today, I've made a video recently about how long I've not taken drugs for and how long I've abstained from drugs for. I've not smoked a cigarette in 18 months. I've not had one bit of alcohol in 18 months plus, potentially 19 months, potentially 20 months. I've not taken drugs in 6 years, 6 months roughly. From what I don't know the exact date. I've got it on the thing, but it's over 6 years. 6 year 5 months, 6 year 6 months. And they've been relativising through that all day, stripping my life out, basically relativising liar, basically committing crime against my power internally, stripping my ability to speak out about it. So I've abstained from drugs and alcohol for well over 18 months. I've abstained from cocaine and cannabis for well over 6 years, and they've stripped out all my power internally, committing crime, basically calling me a liar, and stripped all my power out to project the words to speak out about that as I am now. So all I can say is, as of October the 26th, or whatever it is today, October the 26th 2025, I think that's today's date, October the 26th, October the 27th, as of now, October 26th, October 27th 2025, I have not consumed alcohol in well over 18 months, could be 20 months, and I haven't had a drag of a cigarette or taken any kind of nicotine whatsoever in well over 18 months also. I've also not taken cocaine or cannabis in well over 6 years, potentially 6 years 7 months, 6 years 6 months. So that for me would, I've looked through AI and asked AI what that equates to, and it says the label you put on that is somebody that's not involved in drugs whatsoever. No doubts whatsoever. This is somebody that's not engaging in drugs and somebody that's not involved in drugs at all, and that's obviously not the best label I wanted for that kind of abstinence or that length of time that I've not engaged in drugs, but that's the label I've got. And all day, every day, I've just made a video, put it on the channel, all day, every day, internal breaking sessions, committing crime against my power, basically calling me a liar and stripping it out. In other words, humiliating my power internally and stripping out all my ability to project this claim that I'm abstinence. In other words, breaking down the self to the extent that they can just call me a liar and put it through court, like they have done already. I'm sure they did that last year when I went to Shepcote Lane, put me through court as a drug user and alcohol abuser because of the state that I was in. But that's obviously not the case, and that's what they keep doing, stripping your power out to the extent they can just do what they want. And that's what they did when I got locked up in 2014, stripped all my power out to the extent I was using cannabis, and then put me through court as a prolific offender or long-term criminal, career criminal, which is not the case. I had a life. So that's basically what I'm summarising it as. They keep stripping your power out, bombarding with accusations internally to the extent you cannot then speak out or defend yourself, and they just do what they want by overpowering you. So they'll strip out all your power to say you don't use drugs, arrest you and then put you through court like they have me and put you through as a prolific drug user, an high-risk alcohol drinker when I haven't drunk alcohol in over 18 months, not even smoked a cigarette in over 18 months, and I've not done cocaine or cannabis in over 6 years, 6.5 years. And they've put me through court saying they could have potentially put me through court as a drug user and alcohol abuser, when that, according to AI, is somebody that doesn't engage whatsoever. So the difference between somebody being an alcohol abuser or drug user and not engaging at all is obviously quite vast. It's massive. That's not a minor detail. It's totally different ends of the scale, and that's exactly what they did in 2014 when I got a prison sentence. I've been with 2 offenders that have been in jail 3 or 4 times. I've been in their company, they've committed a crime, and because I've been in their company, they've convicted me on joint enterprise and said I'm fully involved in it. And all of a sudden I'm now fully involved in it. I got 5 years for it, when it wasn't my behaviour that acted that day. It wasn't my behaviour that day that committed the crime, but they still convicted me anyway because they've been overpowering me, where I've been on cannabis, I've been arrested a couple of times before, they've obviously put through court, I've been arrested a couple of times before. Apparently they've been chasing me for years. I've never been arrested for that crime my entire life. So I've never been to jail at that point my entire life. I hadn't been a cannabis user up until just up to that point. So this is the issue. And this complaint I've made, I've told South Yorkshire Police this, and they've incriminated me again and said that I'm basically full of rubbish, a liar, and put me through court for improper use of communications, calling me a liar. So I'm speaking out about these issues. They're committing crime against me and ignoring me and putting what they want through court. So it's to the extent where they just put whatever they want through court and imitate overpowering you from the system. So, like I said, in summary of this, it's been a forced suicide 100% since Shepcote Lane. I've obviously said in this footage that they've given me a forced suicide in 2016, which is true. But the fact of the matter is, I've always had the option, because the system itself and police have always had the option to address the issue, deinstitutionalise me like I've asked for loads of times, and arrest the culprits for committing crime. So if they're deinstitutionalised, they've got to deinstitutionalise me, otherwise it's a forced suicide. Before I get into the technicalities of why it's a forced suicide, the fact of it is this: it's been a forced suicide now since 2016, and unless they pull that entire institutional self out that's getting worse and worse, which they're obviously not addressing or accounting for because it's getting worse, then it will always be a forced suicide, whether it's in 2016 or 260, whether it's in 2060. I don't know when that is, because they've institutionalised somebody with that as the objective. So I've not made that. They're essentially making the decisions of when I live and when I don't in a controlled state, and I've had to live with that since 2016 in a controlled state with my entire life encapsulated. So the problem is, unless they pull that full institutional self out, which they're not doing, because I've told them to do this I told them this every single meeting in probation. I had meetings 20 times, 30 times, 40 times, 50 times, whatever I had, a lot of meetings, frequently, and near enough every meeting, especially towards the end, I told them, you need to deinstitutionalise me and pull that entire institutional self out. It's crushing my skull, my jaw's wired shut, you can see it behind your eyes, encapsulating your power. I'm in a full controlled state, it's stopping me getting power in society. I cannot work, I cannot have sex, I will never get married. I've obviously never been on holiday, not even been to a football match. I've been in a full brain dead controlled state that entire time, and they've not addressed it. So probation didn't want to address it. South Yorkshire Police have then made the arrest. They've arrested me for complaining about this. I've made all this clear like I am now on this footage. I've made all this clear to the officers that arrested me for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe even an hour. I was in that room like I am now for a long period of time, trying to get these on video, on recorder. I've obviously, that they've got to analyse to see what kind of state I'm in, or to see what I'm talking about or what I'm discussing. So whatever conclusion they've drawn from that, they've basically wrote me off as a liar and said it's still improper use of communication. So from that point, you've no longer got any options in society. It's a forced suicide at any given point. There's nothing you can do. They're saying they're forcing you to conform with an institutional self. But the fact is, it's cost me the best years of my life. Like I've said, it's complete. I've got no education, never been in a sexual relationship, not been on holiday since 15 years, not even been to a football match in the last 10 years, been in a full controlled state with my life encapsulated for 10, 11 years, not bought a home, not got any kind of signs of buying a home. I've had 18 months work that entire time. So I've had 18 months work in 12 years, 13 years or whatever. I mean, just think about it like this, you've had 18 months paid work in 12 years, so it's not even a month a year really. You know what I mean? It's just over a month a year or whatever else. That's not sufficient for any kind of lifestyle whatsoever. For me, that number needed to be more like 6 to 8 years. Like, if it's a forced suicide, it needs to be every day, or at least 8 years minimum. I've had 18 months work that entire time over that period. It's not really sufficient for anything. You're not going to buy an house if you've had 18 months work in 12 years. A bank won't take you. You're not going to be able to contribute to a girlfriend paying a mortgage, or you're off for a mortgage if you get a girlfriend. It's not sufficient. So they've evidently made somebody unfit to work that's a career criminal, that's critically drug taking and mentally ill. That's what they've put me through the system as, completely ignoring the fact that I've got a life. Like I said, not been on holiday in 15 years. I've not been to a football match or any kind of trips or anything like that with my mates. I've not even got any mates left in 10 years plus, you know what I mean? Obviously never been in a sexual relationship, no children, no marriage, no mortgage. They're just running off with my life, pulling my power out, with my life encapsulated throughout my 20s. They're the best years of somebody's life. I've lost the best years of my life with my life encapsulated, or power encapsulated, with officers committing crime against me all day, every day. Problems still persist, critical condition, still obviously living in a tent. I live in a tent at this point. I've lived in a tent for years now. I've been homeless for over 2.5 years. Since July the 3rd, 2023, that's when I become homeless, or the 6th. It's rather the July the 3rd, July the 6th. The first week in July, that's when I become homeless, 2023. First week of July 2023. Maybe the 3rd, maybe the 6th. I can't remember the day. I'm not lying, that's genuinely what it is. It's rather the 3rd or the 6th. It's now October, late October 2025. So it's been now going on to 2.5 years. We're going to go on to 2.5 years that I've been living on the streets for. I've lived on the streets for that entire time, whether I've been in the tent or not. So I've been almost living on the street now for going on to 2.5 years, and that's solely down to the internal breaking sessions, the breaking sessions all day internally, stripping out of the self all day, and it's just getting worse and worse. The brain dead state's getting worse and worse. My jaw's completely wired shut because of how much power they've actually stripped out in internal breaking sessions. I've seen people in jail that are completely institutionalized. They've had their entire life stripped out and internalized, and they're basically in a robotic state, a robotic controlled state in jail, to be used in jail for what I've said, or what I claim to be a playground for professionals, where they're using people in a controlled state to just make their own evidence. You can see the amount of pressure that's on them because they've encapsulated their entire life. And I've said from the beginning, I would be one of the worst cases of institutionalisation ever, because you can feel the pressure on your skull. You can feel how much pressure is actually on your skull, how much is on your internal organs, how much of my ability to speak is being stripped out. And it's just getting worse. They've not corrected it, they've not accounted for it, they've not addressed it. It's just getting worse and worse. It's cost me the best years of my life, and the problem's still going on. Now this video, I'm going to try and speak for as long as I can, just to obviously, I set out with the intention of making a 1-hour video, just to show that this is not just one short burst of complaining. This is a serious ongoing issue that's every minute or every day. So I'm trying to show by extending this video, rather than it being a minute long or 2 minute long, that this is an ongoing problem in every minute or everyday society, all day, every day. This is not just me getting a life like they're saying, and then all of a sudden apparently being mentally ill 1 minute and it being catastrophic. This is all day, every day for 9 years, costing me every day of my life on a forced suicide, you know what I mean? And it's just getting progressively worse. In other words, they've opened an institutional self with the objective of institutionalising somebody potentially over 20 years, but it's now been 9 years and it's still ongoing in a critical state, pulling my life out. So it doesn't matter. They've set up an ongoing institutionalisation process. Does that make sense? In 2016 September, they've set up an ongoing institutionalisation process whilst in prison. So I think I was 23. I'm now 33 next month, so it'll be 10 years, and I'm still losing I'm not joking when I say this as well. I've obviously been in pubs and whatever else. I've met a woman once many years ago, whatever else. I'm not joking when I say this. From September 2016 until now, October 2025, every single day, not one day different, that process has been on me with my power encapsulated, stripping out my power and internalising it. So for me, that's a critical state, that's a controlled state. And to summarise that as a label, as I just have, it's an ongoing institutionalisation process. So you'll never get a life. You will never get a life if it's an ongoing institutionalisation process. If you set up an ongoing institutionalisation process from September 2016 until now, October 2025, you will not have got a life in that 9 years. But you don't get a life as an ongoing institutionalisation process, because the institutionalisation process is for people in mental illness asylums or on long-term high-risk sentences, 20 years, 22 years, maybe even 18 years. Long-term prisoners, high-risk prisoners that have been convicted of high-risk crime and have been proven to have got serious issues, whether it's mental illness or other, that this institutional self is going to help or address any problems, this has been open before I've even been a convicted criminal. But the ongoing institutionalisation process has been from 2016, when I got convicted of a joint enterprise to a £20 phone snatching. At 23-year-old, they've had this open from. This is at 21-year-old. So this ongoing process that I'm on, that's costing me every day of my life, is for a £20 phone snatching at the age of 21. I'm now 33 next month, and I'm still in this ongoing institutionalisation process, costing me every day of my life. I've not been in a sexual relationship that time, like I've said, no marriage, no children, not been on holiday. I've probably had 15 months work, 18 months work tops in that entire time, in that 9 years. The list goes on and on. Basically, it's cost me every day of my life, but they want to put it through the system like I've had a life, and it's obviously not been a life. It's not for people that get a life. An ongoing institutionalisation process isn't for people that get a life. It's for people that spend their life in a prison cell or an asylum room, whereby that individual can have his life created within the institute to be released safely back into society. But they've also got to, whilst they're doing this, when they're doing this, they've got to start accounting for the life that individual's got. They can't just open an institutional self on somebody and run off with a life that needs, like I have, open an institutional self on somebody, saying they're a criminal, and then run off with a life in a controlled state and cost them marriage, sex with women. It's worth more than what a detective constable is in prison, and they've cost me what I claim over 50 sexual relations, and he's the detective constables or similar, or probation officers. So whether it's a senior probation officer or not makes no difference to me at all. The issue I've got is, obviously they're not addressing this issue, and it's costing me my life. So if it's costing me my life, they've got to start at some point accounting for what it is that they're actually doing. And they're not doing that. The South Yorkshire Police have not done that when I've been in there. South Yorkshire Police didn't want to know. They've obviously now sentenced me or put me through a court for somebody that's basically lying, saying it's improper use of communications for complaining about it. So all these complaints I've made and all these videos that I've made, not only have they ignored them for 2 or 3 years or whenever I've been sending them to South Yorkshire Police, but they've then come and arrested me in an homeless place or an homeless shelter. Whilst I'm in the homeless shelter having some breakfast, they randomly sprung on me and arrested me and charged me with improper use of communications, basically saying I'm lying. I'm improperly using the complaint system. Just talking rubbish, basically saying that I'm spamming the complaint system. These are the complaints I'm making that they've wrote off, where they've, like I said, I couldn't express. They've cost me every day of my life. They've potentially cost me the best years of my life. They've cost me the best years of my 20s either way, regardless of what's gone on and what's not gone on before I got sentenced. They've cost me every day, and this is what these videos are. every day, this is the defining factor that cannot be deviated from. They've cost me every day from September 2016 until now, October 2025, and they're still costing it me now. So they're still costing it me now 9 years later. So I'm still losing my life 9 years. So that's from the ages of 23 years old until 32-year-old, what I'm sat here as now. Speaking now as a 32-year-old, they set this ongoing institutionalisation process up at 23. So that's my entire 20s gone, regardless of and they've said that this is improper use of communication, because they've obviously got the power to write it off. They'll say it's drug use or mental illness or jail, but I'm not in jail. I shouldn't be suffering with any mental illnesses, and I don't take drugs. So I'm sat in front of this camera now as somebody that doesn't take drugs, doesn't even drink or smoke cigarettes. The only problem I've got is coffee, which is a legal substance. Coffee is a legal substance, and there is no way that coffee has caused all this. There's no way. So I'm sat here as somebody that takes no drugs, no alcohol, no smoking. I'm not in jail. I've not been in jail in years, since 2017. And I'm sat here now still complaining, saying I'm still now in a critical condition, the same critical condition, if not worse, that I was in 2017. That's never happened before my entire life. I've gone 23 years, whether it's in jail or not, with no issues. All of a sudden they've encapsulated my life and my jaw's wide shut, and I've been in a critical state every day since. End of. Done. That's it. That's all of that's what they're not seeing, and that's what they've classed as improper use. I've said I've had no issues my entire life for 23 years of my life, where I've been in any critical condition whatsoever, where I've been in any mental anguish, where I've been in any physical anguish that I can tie to this. Even in jail, even on remand, even for a year in jail, I was perfectly fine. All of a sudden, they've encapsulated my entire life with my jaw shut and put my life behind glass. And I have then, from that moment, been in a critical state or in losing every day since then. So I've lost every day since then, whether they class that as critical or not, because of what they're dealing with in the system's not my problem. It's a critical state in society. For me, it's a critical state because it's a forced suicide. So you've been given a forced suicide, so it's always going to be a critical state. Just because you're not, some of those times or some of those days in between those 9 years, it's not been all that mental anguish like it is most days now, or physical anguish, not mental anguish, because it's not mental illness. But just because there's been times in those 9 years where it's not been in what they class as a critical condition, makes no difference to somebody in society. It's a critical state because you've got forced suicide. But regardless of what they define as critical, or what they define as mentally ill, or what they define as problematic, there's one thing that can be said that's factual. There can be one thing that, whether they agree or not, is true, because it's true in society, and that is this: I have lost every single day of my life, every day, with my life encapsulated, and the control over my life encapsulated, from 2016 September until this present day in October 2025, which is 9 years. That's every day of my life lost. Whether they label days as non-critical or critical or horrific or not, makes no difference. The facts of the matter are this: from September 2016 until now in October 2025, I've lost every single day in a controlled state. Fact. Whether they've obviously not addressed it because they're not accounting for it in a police station. So that's the facts. That's the facts of the matter. And that is enough to put one of them in jail, because it doesn't matter. I've not been in jail in years, since 2017. It's now 2025. That's 8 years ago I left jail. I only spent 2 years in there. So if they're saying that the conditions of a prison causes problems of that nature, so be it. I'm not going to argue with these scientific facts. But I'm not in prison. I've not been in prison for 8 years. I only went in for 2 years. And within that time, I've apparently contracted some problem, physical agony and mental anguish, or physical anguish, that they're saying, I'm assuming is going to say mental illness, within jail, that's now lasted every day for 9 years. It's not going to do that. You're not going to go to jail for 2 years, 2 months. You're not going to be incarcerated in prison for 2 years, 2 months, and then being what I class as a critical state for 9 years, going on to 10 years. Not a chance. I've not been in there for 8 years, and I'm still in a brain dead controlled state now, losing every day of my life, getting worse. Like I've just said at the beginning of the video, getting worse. They physically restricted my ability to get erections and physically restricted my ability to breathe for myself. So if that's not getting worse, then what is? What is not getting worse? If that problem's not getting worse, then why am I sat here at 32 years old, nearly 33 in a matter of weeks, with my entire ability to get a full erection snagged and my entire ability to physically breathe myself snagged since Shepcote Lane last year? So it's obviously whatever shit or whatever rubbish they're putting in the system is having physical effects. So they've gifted themselves power by making what information they put in the system have physical impacts on individuals in society. I'm now sat here as a 32 or 33 year old man having to accept the fact that I'm incapable of breathing for myself or incapable of getting full erections because of information submitted in the system in Shepcote Lane last year by police. I've never mentioned any of this to them. I've never said anything about breathing or sexual relations to them. Nothing. So whatever information they've put in the system, they've weaponised or used, whereby they've weaponised it and it goes into people's lives and has physical effects. So I'm now sat here complaining about wanting to know what's going on when I'm obviously, my penis erection has shrunk by 2/3 all of a sudden what feels like overnight, and now I'm struggling to breathe every day and physical restraints stopping me from breathing ever since I've been in Shepcote Lane, which is over a year and a half ago. It's not panic attacks, it's not depression, it's not anything. You can feel the physical restraint on your body in an institutional self with the power short. So I'm obviously sat here making these videos wanting to know what is going on with this institutional self, and I already know what's going on. They've weaponised the information they've put in the system to have physical impacts or implications for individuals. So they've essentially weaponised the power they've got in the system to commit crime in society. So I'm sat here wanting to know why I've got a 33% erection, and it's because some knobsack in Shepcote Lanes has submitted some information. There's no way that any information they could submit should have any physical effect or impact or implications on my life. This is where they're apparently creating